This is the first time I'm petting Luna. It's been about 3.5 hours. This is her roadmap to success. Now, Luna is basically, these problems were really, I think, a result of the guardians not really providing her with structure. And I think that she's confused into thinking that she has to look out for the humans, and the humans don't listen to her or respect her as an authority figure, which stresses her out. So we have kind of a vicious cycle going on. What we need to do is change the leader-follower dynamic in the home. And the very first way I like to do that is to start incorporating rules and boundaries. So I'm going to talk about some of the rules we went over because one of the guardians was minding the child. So one of the first rules we're breaking right now, she should not be on the furniture for a month. Now I say a month or as long as the problems are still going on. The reason I say that is for dogs, the higher they sit, the more rank or status they have. Letting a dog sit at this height says we're peers. Also, I saw the dog climb on top of the guardians. That's an indication I don't respect you. There's a difference between coming and like asking, looking at your lap, or putting the chin on. She just kind of climbed up. Now the guardian said that she doesn't do that a lot, but it's an indicator of I don't see the humans as an authority figure. So dogs are all about what they see us do. So if they see us enforcing rules consistently, and the rules are based on something that has a perception for the dog, it helps flip what I call the leader-follower dynamic. So one of the first rules, not being allowed on the furniture for a month or as long as these problems are still going on. The dog can still continue to sleep with the couple in the bed because they have to pick her up and put her in the bed. So they're doing it, not her taking initiative and taking that on her own. I want the humans to be in charge of the high ground. And the dog gets to use that with the human's permission and for good behavior. So if you invite her up and she starts barking, she has to get down. Or if you invite her up and she goes to get a drink of water, she would have to get permission to come back up again. She's pouting a little bit now because she wants to get down, but she's a lot more relaxed than she was before. Okay, other rules that we talked about: when the humans are eating here, the dog should not be within 7 feet. So I would make it just from armrest to armrest, armrest to armrest. There's two couches that are facing. There's a table between. So we have create a little square box the dog is not allowed to be in when the humans are eating. The rest of the time they can be there. When the humans are in the kitchen, she should not be allowed in the kitchen. So we're going to walk towards her until she leaves the kitchen. I forgot to go over the escalating consequences with the guardian, so if I forget to, I will go over them after this, but if you forget what they are, let me know and I can send you a video link with those. That's how we would enforce the rules. Let me see, other rules, the human should have to go through the doorway first before the dog. For the dogs, whoever's in front is perceived as the leader. Now, when the nanny is walking the dog, she's going to let the dog walk in front or everywhere we want because we want the dog to just enjoy the walk. But typically when the guardians are doing it, she stays right next to them, which is ideal because that's a good interaction. And I'd like the guardians to start walking her once a day, even though she's getting a little walk. Again, it doesn't have to be a long walk, maybe a 5-minute away, and then we turn around and come back. But leading a dog on a walk is a great way to build respect for them as an authority figure. And dogs also get over things by literally moving forward, which is why we have the nanny taking the dogs for a walk, as we talked about in the above video. Okay, other rules when we're at the dinner table. The dog's not allowed to be within 7 feet of people at the dinner table. If the dog wants to go through a door out in the backyard, the dog has to sit. We tell Luna, sit once. If she doesn't sit within about 2 to 3 seconds, I walk away. Sit down on the couch, sit somewhere else, watch TV, read your magazine, look at your phone, whatever, for 1 minute. After 1 minute, go back to the door, tell her to sit again. If she doesn't sit within 2 to 3 seconds, walk away this time for 2 minutes, next time for 4 minutes, then 8 minutes, and 16 minutes. Keep doubling the length of time. If she whimpers or whines, ignore her. Don't give her any attention. That's what she's looking for, is attention. But as soon as she sits at the door, when you tell her to sit, she gets what she wants. I'd probably start with her outside, but eventually you want to do it with both directions. There's that big, she just relaxed a little bit and then she's like, no, now I'm going to try to go. Okay, but she's sniffing my leg a little bit, which is another good thing that we'd like to see her doing. She's got to sit at the door and first one direction, then for both directions. And eventually she'll start going to the door and sit as her way of indicating I would like to go outside because we're teaching her this is the behavior we want. We also want to make sure we're not petting her at the wrong times. Anything she's doing when we pet her is what we're going to amplify. And the guardians have been petting her when she's nervous and anxious and fearful for years. And each time we do that, make them just slightly more fearful or anxious. But when we do that over and over again, dozens of times a day, every week, every month, every year, it amplifies. So by stopping doing that, now if the dog is nervous and I want to let the dog know I'm here with you, I can touch and let the dog know I'm with you without amplifying it. But if I pet, I'm going to increase it. Also, this accounts for excitement too. So when we come home from work, if she's excited and jumping up, don't interact with her because dogs make the most mistakes just like us when we're overexcited or when worked up. So we want to teach her to be nice and calm. And when you're calm, I'm very interested in petting you. When you're excited, I'm not interested in petting you. And we're going to show that through our actions, just by withholding that affection. Now, anyone who watches my videos knows that I'm a big believer in positive reinforcement, because that's how we motivate dogs. So I'd like the guardians to start petting her with a purpose. Now, she did not know even the most basic of commands, and she's 3 years old, and that's obviously a big impactor for her self-esteem. So I went through sit, down, up, and stand. I should be linking, I should have a link above in this write-up with if you're looking at my website, with a link to showing you how to do that with another dog. If there's not, message me and I'll add it in. I'd like the guardians to practice that. Right now she got sit, but she couldn't get to anything else when I was here, and I think she's just too worked up. Now we're going to use passive training to reward desired behaviors, and that's a great way to train your dog. It's a longer way though. So every time she comes to you, I want you to pet her and say here, or excuse me, a key. Every time she sits down, pet her and say sit. Every time she lays down, pet her and say chill. Try to come up with fun command words for these actions, and come up with a list of the command words. Make sure we're all saying a key and not a whole bunch of words. Oh, what a good sit, sit. Remember, when I once the dog knows commands, I give the command in 2 stages. Sit during the command stage. As soon as the dog sits, I pet under the chin and I say the word sit. I like to pet under the chin because when a dog feels good about itself, his nose is parallel to the ground or tilted up. We can pet anywhere we want. We just don't want to pet like this. Dogs don't like that. Oh, look at that. Good eye contact. So the more that we pet her when she does desired actions and we say the command word of whatever it is, the more she's going to start to do those actions. So every time she comes to us organically, even if she's just passing by, she's not even going to stop. Pet her and say a key. Every time she sits on her own, pet her and say sit. If we see that she goes and sits next to the guardian, we're going to say, reward. And the other guardian is going to look at her and whatever she's doing, she's laying down, chill. And we're just going to pet her and say whatever she happens to be doing at the time. In conjunction with teaching her sit, down, up, and stand like I showed you, is going to accelerate your process. And if you get in the habit of rewarding desired actions and behaviors, she's going to pick those things up faster, and you want to do them for the rest of the dog's life. And anything that she does that's unique, you can pet her and give her a command word for it. If you want to teach her to stretch, every time she stretches, you pet her and say stretch. After a couple months, you say stretch, and she'll stick her butt in the air and waggle her tail on command. So keep in mind, it doesn't always have to be a trick or command. It could be something, she brings you a toy. You could say the name of that particular toy. Then you can eventually have all your toys named, and now the dog has more mental stimulation, which is draining physically. It'll build her self-esteem or self-confidence, and it's very beneficial in a lot of different ways. Let me see, what else? Petting with a purpose is, once she knows how to sit, if she comes and nudges us, scratches us, she's demanding attention. If we pet her for doing that, then we're rewarding and enhancing and telling her, yes, you're in charge of us. So instead, what we're going to do is, if she scratches me or nudges me or barks at me, I'm going to tell her to sit or to lay down or do something. As soon as she does that, I'm going to pet her and say just that command word. So we're telling her that if you want something from humans, you have to earn it. You can't just demand it. Because if you demand it, they're not going to give it to you. But as soon as you do what the human wants, the human will reward you. That way there's an incentive for the dog to listen to the humans, which has been lacking from this situation. We went over structured feeding. Right now the guardian's only feeding her once a day, and it's in the evening. Now she might be a little bit more alert, but it's actually better for dogs, just like it is for us, to eat bigger meal in the morning and a smaller meal at night. Now to transition this, what we're going to do is we're going to put food in her bowl, and we're not going to allow her near her bowl. Then the human who's feeding her is going to eat something in 5 or more bites. 5 small bites of a chip is fine. If you're going to eat an actual meal, that's better, but it just takes 5 or more bites of something. Once you get done eating, then you give the dog permission to eat. And if she comes over and sniffs her bowl and walks away, as soon as she walks away, I pick up the bowl, dump the food out, put the empty bowl back down. She does not eat again until the next meal. In this case, she wouldn't eat again until the next day, because we want to get her eating in the breakfast. Let's say that she goes over and sniffs, you put the bowl of food down and she doesn't come over. She has 3 minutes. If she doesn't come over to the bowl in 3 minutes, we pick it up and dump it. It's important to put the empty bowl back down. If she does come and start eating and she's eating really slow, we'll give her up to 5 minutes. But after 5 minutes, we'll pick up the bowl and dump it and put the empty bowl back down. That will motivate her to eat faster, and she absolutely can. It's not being mean. Now, we'd like her to eat twice a day. But if she doesn't eat her breakfast meal, to make her more, if you feed her dinner, she's going to be less hungry for breakfast. So for right now, we're only going to feed her dinner if she eats some of her breakfast meal, at least half. And you should be only feeding her what she should be eating. So look at her weight and the measuring cup or the measurement on the bag, and only feed her that much. And if you're supposed to feed her a half a cup, she's only eating half of a cup, then to go to feeding her a quarter cup until she's eating all of that. Then we start adding more and more and get back up to the half cup. Now this is going to be a who blinks first scenario, so don't overly treat her. So really, that'll make the treats that she gets from the nanny even more important. But don't overly treat her, and don't cheat for her, and don't give her multiple opportunities to eat. You're giving her an opportunity to eat. She doesn't eat, that's on her, not on you. And she's going to test you to see, are you going to blink first, or is she going to blink first? If she wins, all the problems you're going to have are going to be manifest. This is one of the most important activities or rituals you can go through. And if you do this every time you feed your dog, it is basically an obedience or social structure example every time you simply feed your dog anyways. So that's basically feeding. When the baby is eating, we should put that tablecloth around, and we're not going to allow her to get on the tablecloth. Now, I would start practicing that before the baby is feeding, because if the baby drops food and the dog comes over and eats it, it's going to reward the dog and entice the dog to come over. A couple other things. Avocado, grapes, and raisins are all toxic to dogs, and those are foods that we usually feed little babies. So make sure that that's another reason why she shouldn't be near us. Also, the humans should not be feeding people food, because people food is rich and also has onion powder in it or onion salt, which are toxic to dogs. And it also just is confusing for them. They shouldn't be coming too close to us. Now, last couple things. If she's licking her lips, that's a sign of stress. This that I mentioned in the first video, this is a calming signal. She's saying, I'm stressed out, or it could also mean, hey man, you need to calm down. So if we're seeing those things, then that tells us she's a little bit anxious. But again, we don't want to pet her for doing that. I think that there were so many angles that were going the wrong direction in this house. Now that the guardians know the right direction to go, we should see a very accelerated improvement and rehabilitation for the dog. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Invisible boundaries.
Invisible boundaries. I'm going to show the guardian how to do that. These are going to use the escalating consequences. I'll just go through the escalating consequences here. Maybe just makes a longer video. First thing I do when I want to disagree with the dog is I make a hissing sound like a cat. We have a cat in the house, so it should be even more. I won't tell you all the fun stuff that goes with it, but if you want to watch her, so you see the ears. It's instinctive for dogs. So I have 10 hisses. I have a level 1 hello, a level 1 hiss, which is like, I have level 10, which is like. So you have to have nuance, and we want to meet or exceed her energy level. So if she's at level 4 energy and I hiss at level 2, she won't hear it or she won't respect it. The hiss is translated no, don't do that, or most effectively, don't even think about doing that. The best way to use it is to distract or disagree with the dog before they break a rule. And I see a lot of people going, that's not a hiss. A hiss should be long and only one per incident. Always start with your hiss. Second consequence is to stand up abruptly. To a dog, standing up is you're burning the energy to stand up, which means you mean business. Your authority goes whatever direction your belly button is pointing. So what happens when you stand up is the dog's going to take a step backwards, and then it's going to quantify. Are you talking to me? It's going to do that by walking over here or over there. If you continue to face me and the dog walks there, it walked away from your authority. So wherever the dog goes, you pivot and keep that dog in front of you until it communicates to you it's done challenging. It will do that by standing still, sitting, or laying down. Probably not laying down for her. As soon as she does, and you don't tell her to do these things, she offers that behavior on her own. As soon as she does one of those things, you take 2 steps backwards, and only 2 steps. Left foot, right foot, stop. Wait 1 second. Your 1 second is essentially a period. After your 1 second, then you can go back to doing what you're doing. That's the second escalating consequence. Standing up abruptly, turning to face the dog, keeping it in front of you until it's stationary. Take 2 steps backwards, pause 1 second, then you can go back to doing what you're doing. The third escalating consequence is to march directly at the dog. This is confrontational, facing you. Sideways is approachable. So when I march at the dog, I march directly at the dog, wherever the dog's at, until the dog communicates, I'm done challenging you. It will do that by doing this. It's going to turn sideways to you or greater. As soon as it turns sideways or further away from you, you stop in place immediately. Your timing is important. Then you're going to go to the second consequence. You're pivoting, keeping the dog in front of you until it's stationary. Then you take those 2 steps backwards. The only time this, and when you do this, move suddenly towards the dog. Don't rush. I say march, and that means stomp to everybody. I don't mean stomp. I mean moving briskly towards her. You want to give her a flinching experience so she's like, geez, if I'm still here when the human's getting here, the humans are going to run me over. We want to get her to defer. And as soon as she turns sideways, we stop. Unless she's in a designated no dog zone. Let's say that there's an open space in front of me of 10 feet, and she's not allowed to be there because I'm eating. And she violated the perimeter. I marched towards her and she turned sideways right away, but she's still inside the 10-foot perimeter. I would ignore that and bump into her. And as soon as she got outside the perimeter, that's exactly where I would stop. That's how I establish an invisible boundary. Now, if the invisible boundary is here and I'm the dog and I'm stopped here, I'm going to try to go here. You block me here, I'm going to try to go there. She's going to try to do these things and get around you. You have to be consistent and block her consistently. If it's too big of a space, add a chair or a box or something there to make it a more confined space. That makes it easier for you to get her out and disagree. So this is the third escalating consequence. March directly at the dog. Don't stop and don't slow down. If you get to where the dog is and the dog's still there, bump into the dog. Dog needs to learn, I need to get out of the human's way, especially because we have a little baby. We want her to learn to defer. The fourth consequence I have is what I call a leash timeout. This is my atom bomb. This is when the dog is really being defiant. I've told her no, but I warned her not to do it by hissing. She did it anyway, so I stood up. She did it again, so I marched her. She did it again. She's done it wrong 4 times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the dog on a leash, and I'm going to step on the leash, kind of like similar to what we did in the flooding technique in the video above. But in this case, I'm going to step on her about 2 feet away from her. Don't do the martingale, just a regular collar. And then she might flop around. If she does, don't say a word. Don't disagree. That's a temper tantrum. Soon we wait for her to sit. When she sits, that's her way of saying I'm challenging you less. As soon as she sits, I take my foot that's on the leash. If it was over here, I'd slide it towards her to take the tension off of the leash. Now, usually what I do is I wait for the dog to LAY, but because she doesn't LAY very often, I think it's because there are hardwood floors. So as soon as she sits down, her energy is nice and relaxed, then I take my foot off of the leash. And then at that point, she's going to walk away dragging the leash. Now, it's dangerous to walk away to have a dog dragging a leash around. So we only do this when she's supervised. But if a couple minutes go by and if I take her off the leash right away, she might go right back to what she's doing. So when I tether her and step on the leash, I'm basically giving her essentially a timeout. And then what I'm saying is, as soon as you surrender, return to a completely calm and balanced state of mind, freedom is restored. But if you're going to be defiant, you're going to lose all freedom as a consequence until you return to a calm and balanced state of mind. That's why it's important we don't tell the dog to sit or lie down. We wait for the dog. When the dog does that, and when we're stepping on a leash, it's saying, I'm not challenging you anymore. Laying down is a surrender. So as soon as they lay down, that would be when I take my foot off the leash. Okay, so those are the 4 escalating consequences. If you have questions about those, let me know. I think that's just about it. Now, if the guardians have questions, frankly, this is probably one of those dogs that, it's unfortunately the guardians live in Lincoln because she probably will need another follow-up session. I'd also like the guardian to go to YouTube, find easy dog tricks, and make a goal of each week. One of the guardians says, I'm going to teach her 1 trick on Sunday. Go through and teach her. Once you've taught her, teach the other guardian how to do it. And go back and forth and do this every week. And each one of you should teach her 4 new tricks or commands. So that way she would have about 10 or 12. That will help with her self-esteem and also help her have a better relationship with the humans because the humans are interacting and teaching her those things. But the more, just like us, we get confidence when we have the more knowledge or skills or things we accomplish. I hear that Mother is being paged, so we're about the end of this roadmap to success anyways. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.